Hey everyone, welcome to another Reality Skewed Gamers video. This is going to be a tutorial about Phase 2 with your Droid and Jawa attacks. I am Finity, your Doctor of SWGOH, and I am going to do a stethoscope drop. I don't know why I felt the need to do that, and I can already hear Ranger yelling at me, so you are never going to see that again, so hopefully, yeah. Don't stop watching the video over that. Okay. So what I want to do today is to go over Phase 2 with the standard Droid and Jawa combination. Now, there are some different attacks that you can do with this. The one that I'm going to show you is the one that has pretty much guaranteed me at least 3%, 3.5%. I've gotten to 4 and close to 5% before. You'll see some of the variations that I'll talk about as we go through here. But the key is how you set up your characters. That's going to be one of the most important things. So let's look at what the basic squad is going to be. Your squad is going to be your HK-47 as your lead. Now, why do you have HK-47 as your lead? Because he has 30% crit chance to all of your droids, and they gain 50% turn meter on a critical hit. So obviously you know that critical chance is going to be pretty important in how you're setting up this group. Now, when you're trying to figure out how to mod your characters, if you haven't already, I would recommend that you set up your account on SWGOH.gg, so SWGOH.gg. When you set up your profile and you put your player ID, it'll grab all of the information off your account at the next time they grab it, which is usually around your payout time. And you'll be able to see all of the mods that are equipped on your characters. If you don't have mods equipped on your characters, and they're pretty good ones, you may want to equip them so they get pulled in by SWGOH.gg. Reason is that you may want to use that in order to search for particular mods, in order to get your characters where you need them to for this attack. The Droid Jawa attack is fairly dependent on your mods. You'll see that I wrote that for HK-47, your crit chance needs to be as high as possible. And when we get to IG-86, you'll see kind of the reasoning behind that. But if HK-47 has 30% critical chance, as high as possible means you want to try and get it around 70%, so he has a 100% crit chance. Now, 70% crit chance is kind of crazy. It may not even be possible for some of the people with the top mods, but you want it as high as possible, definitely over 50%, which means that you want at least 20% on HK-47, so there's more than a 50% chance that he's gaining 50% turn meter on his critical hits. The other thing that I've listed here, which will be standard for almost all of the droids, is that a speed of 150 or a speed of greater than 180. Now, through just testing, what I've noticed is that if all of your droids are over 150 in speed, then you have a pretty decent chance of getting 2 topples on your AAT run. If you have greater than 180, you can get probably 3, maybe even 4 topples. So speed is pretty important on the droids. They're a little bit more important on the Jawas, which we'll get to, but you want to try and get all of your droids to around 150 speed at least, and then if you can, start to get some above 180. So the importance of an HK lead is going to be that lead ability. The next character is going to be IG-88. Now, IG-88 is important because he's going to be one of your main damage dealers. He's pretty much a beast when it comes to damage, and if you look at his unique ability, he has 45% crit damage and deals 20% more damage for each enemy suffering a negative status effect. Now, this comes into play in a few different places. So, obviously, the 45% crit damage is going to be key, so you need to make sure you get his crit chance as high as possible so he's getting that extra damage. The 20% more damage for each enemy suffering a negative status effect, when you topple your AAT, you want to make sure that it has some kind of debuff. Now, your Jawa engineer should be rolling those thermal detonators onto the AAT, and so that should help keeping a negative status on that character. When it comes to before it's toppled, you can get a negative status on one of the side cannons, on 2 of the side cannons, or all 3, including the main cannon. So that could leave you with 4 different targets with a negative status effect, and that would increase IG-88's damage by 80%, which means that if you have 125% increased crit damage, then you can, when you do your AoE, in order to try and get rid of all of the different cannons and the little turrets on the side, you do a lot more damage with IG-88's AoE ability. So IG-88 is going to be your main damage dealer. You want his crit chance as high as possible. Again, speed over 150 to try and get your 2 topples. If you can get it over 180, then you might be able to get your 3 topples. And because IG-88 is pretty much your main damage dealer, and he's a little bit squishy compared to IG-86, try to make him a focus on your gear. If you can gear up IG-88, you get a lot more damage out of it. It's pretty noticeable. I recently got mine up to gear 11 from gear 10, and I was able to gain about 50,000 to 100,000 depending on the run extra damage just based on that. So IG-88, definitely one you want to focus in terms of gear. The next droid is going to be IG-86. Now, IG-86 has a couple of different things that end up being kind of interesting with his build and how you want to mod him. So he has his basic attack that whenever he deals physical damage, he has an increased 50% chance to critical hit. And then you have his unique ability, which is if you have IG-86 with other droids, he gains 4.5% critical chance for each living droid ally. So, think about what the group is going to be so far. It's HK-47 lead with IG-88, IG-86, and the other 2 positions will be with Jawas, Nebit and Jawa engineer specifically. So that means you can have 2 other living droid allies to go along with IG-86. So that will give him an extra 9% crit chance. With his basic attack, he gets 50% extra crit chance. And then with HK-47's lead, you have another 30% crit chance. So if you're looking just at his basic without any crit mods, IG-86 only needs about 11% crit chance to get 100% crit chance with his basic ability. It's pretty important for his basic ability to be like that because of the way Jawas work in the AAT, which is that when they attack or use any ability, they automatically call an ally to assist. And so by getting that crit chance on IG-86 on his basic, you should be getting a lot of turn meter when he uses his basic. Now, he does have a special ability, but if you look at his special ability, he'll get the 30% from HK-47, he gets the 9% from his unique, so he's already at 39% for that. So that's why I have the little plus sign there. You want as much as you can again on IG-86, but if you can get 11% crit chance at least, which should be fairly easy, then you can focus on getting the crit chance up for the other characters, because one of the abilities that IG-86 is going to be using most of the time, his basic ability, will be critting all the time at 100%, and you don't have to worry about it necessarily. So, when you're focusing on crit chance, focus on IG-88 first, try to get his crit chance up as high as possible, then HK-47, and then IG-86. IG-86 will still provide a lot of extra damage with his attacks. So now that we have the droids done, let's take a look at the Jawas. And the Jawas are relatively clumped together in how you want to mod them. You want survivability and speed, 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 speed. They both have abilities that are really useful in this raid. I'm going to go through those abilities in a minute here when I go through my characters and show you how I've modded them. But you want your Jawas to go as fast as possible so that their abilities come off cooldown faster. They don't gain the 50% turn meter. So that means you really need to focus on their speed in order to help with those. And with their speed, that means that there's more opportunities for Nebit or Jawa engineer to do an attack and then call a droid as their assist for their special AAT ability that Jawas get. So that goes right into what the different RNG things are that you need to look at in Phase 2 of Heroic AAT. So the first thing is the number of attacks by the tank, especially in the early phases. Now, if you look at the Fearsome Foe ability of the AAT, of the tank, you'll see that there's a 50% chance for the AAT to get a bonus attack, meaning that instead of 2 attacks, it'll do 3 attacks. If you have 3 attacks going by the tank early, you may want to consider restarting that because that's a lot of extra damage that you may not necessarily need. The next one is one that'll happen in everyone. If for some reason all of your attacks are evaded or deflected, you may want to consider restarting because that's a lot of lost damage there for no particular reason. The next one is taunts removed off Nebit. So those side cannons have the ability to remove buffs off of a character. And if Nebit is taunting, you want his taunt to stay as long as possible in order to save your droids. But if those side tanks or those side cannons remove the taunt off of Nebit, that just means your droids are more open to attacks. So you want to be looking at if the taunts are removed off of Nebit. If so, how early are they? Are the droids taking unnecessary damage? And then lastly is who's called to assist. Now this is also based on IG-86's ability and also whenever a Jawa uses their ability. So whenever they use an ability, you want to make sure that you see who's attacking. If it's a droid, great. They're going to gain 50% turn meter. They're going to go a little bit faster. Remember that a Jawa can't call a Jawa that'll then call another droid. That ability by the AAT that's given specifically to Jawas is limited to only one proc by a Jawa per attack. So you can't get a chain of Jawas. So make sure that you're watching who is being called to assist. Can it be maximized damage? Those few things can help you maximize your damage if you're focusing on them. And it'll be a good indicator as to whether or not you may want to restart your attack. So let's look at what my roster looks like and what I'm currently using during that squad. So looking at my HK-47, you'll see that he has crit mods. Some of my crit mods, again, I'm a free-to-play player. I haven't had the opportunity to get the best mods. Okay, so you don't necessarily need the best mods, but you need to make sure whatever you're using effectively. And so my HK-47 is a Gear 10. Again, for all of your characters that you're using in a raid, you really want them to be at a minimum Gear level 10 and level 80. That's the minimum that you would want. Okay, so Gear level 10, level 80. So you can see my HK-47 is Gear level 10. He's level 85. And so he's pretty much right where I want him to be. My crit chance mods, you'll see I have 6 of them on him. My crit chance is currently at 43%. You add that with the 30% that he gets with his lead ability, and my HK-47 is at about 73% crit. So he's in pretty good shape right now to crit with all of his abilities. The arrow, you definitely want a speed arrow. So his is the 26 with the 4-dot. Then I'm trying to get some speed on the secondaries here, but I'm also trying to get some offense. So if you look at his other ones, there's a bit of offense and speed kind of mixed in around here. Okay, so looking at his stats again, my HK-47 definitely needs more speed. I only have him at 131 speed right now. So when I'm improving my mods and trying to focus a little bit on HK-47, I know I need to get my HK-47 up to about 150. You'll see that I was able to get over my 2% fairly easy. And if I can get my HK-47 over 150 speed, I have a feeling that this is going to be much, much easier for me to get even 4 or 5%. Okay? Now, let's go to the next droid we went over, which is IG-86, or 88. So, IG-88 has some of my best mods. I switched them over to him for the raid. Normally they're on Lando for my PvP team, but for when it comes to the raid, I switch over my mods. Now, if you look at his gear, my IG-88 is gear level 11, so he is one of my main attackers. He does a lot of damage, which is why I focus on him first. And if you look at the mods, so he has the 30 speed arrow with double offensive stats, which is really nice as a secondary. I got kind of lucky with that one. Then you have your square, your triangle, your diamond, your circle, and your plus sign. So when you look at his final stats, my IG-88 is actually at 179 speed. And his crit chance is at 62%. You add that to the 30% from HK-47's lead, and my 88 has about 92%, almost 93% crit. And so because he's doing so well, that's part of the reason why I kept some speed on IG-88 instead of moving it over to HK47. Now this may be something you want to experiment a little bit with. From what I checked, because HK47 doesn't yet have the crit as high as 88, and the speed is just so much better on 88, I just kept it this way. But consider moving your mods around, trying to get 150 speed on all of your droids, see how that works out. It may be a little bit of testing, so make sure you save up credits also in order to move those mods around. The next one is going to be IG86. Now let me get a little drink of water here. All right. So again, I have some extra crit chance mods here on IG86. So you'll see IG86 has a 26 speed. He has some speed on secondary here, more offensively focused. And just going through the mods here. So looking at his final, my IG86 is at 151 speed, which is exactly where I wanted him to be. Now, if you look at his crit chance is 64%. So his crit chance is actually a lot higher than it really needs to be. Again, remember, for his basic attack only, you really only need 11%, and he uses his basic attack a lot. But if you're worried about his special ability, which pulls in an ally, then you want his crit chance to be high because he's getting the 30% from HK47 plus the 9% from his unique ability. So with the 39% and the 64% crit that I have on IG86, I have a little more than about 3%, 2% extra crit chance on IG86 than I really need. And so next time when I do this run, I can move some mods around, try to reduce HK or IG86s a little bit and bring some more up on either 88 or 86 or HK47. Okay, so make sure you're looking at how much crit chance they have. This one I wanted to make sure I had 100%, so I'm just around 100%, 103% with the 64 plus 39. So I can reduce it a little bit. Make sure you look at your stats. Okay, so again, 151 speed, and I have 64% crit. Now, let's go to the Jawas, because the Jawa abilities end up being really key on how you want to kind of work your characters. So, my Chief Nebit is currently a gear level 9. Now, I'm still working on getting some of these. Stun cuffs are a pain to get, as well as the holo projectors. So, I'm working on getting his gear up to gear level 10. Right now, I'm running him at gear 9, but I got him up to level 85. And if you look at his mods, he's pretty much a speed mod at this point. So, his speed is 182. And he has 2 defense mods and 4 health mods in order to try and boost it. You'll see that he has a lot of speed on his secondaries here. And this is a lot for me to have 8s and 10s. I know some people right now are able to get the 20s because they've been farming mods for so long. Again, as a free-to-play player, you may not have those available to you. So try to maximize it with what you can. Now, looking at Nebit's abilities, which end up being critical on how you play this. His 2 most important abilities are his Desert Ambush, which will call a random ally to assist, and if the assisting ally is a Jawa, another random ally can get called. Now, when Nebit uses this, that also triggers the AAT ability. So you could potentially get Nebit attacking, you can get an extra droid attacking due to the AAT ability, you could get Jawa Engineer attacking, hopefully, if he pulls him as an assist. And then if he pulls him as an assist, another droid will then be able to attack. So you could have 4 of your team attacking whenever he uses this Desert Ambush ability. So make sure that you use this and you get that extra damage. Try to have it when the AAT is toppled, because obviously that's all your droids getting extra hits. His other thing is his taunt. Now, his taunt is increasingly awesome because it reduces all cooldowns of Jawas and droids by 1. Which means that if something is on cooldown, you use this, it goes down by 1, and now it comes up from cooldown a little bit faster. Okay? So, that's going to be the key for this. Making sure you know Nebit's abilities, how you use them, when you want to maximize that damage, and then also making sure that you taunt in order to reduce the cooldowns. Next is going to be Jawa Engineer. Now, Jawa Engineer, I just got up to gear level 10, so he was gear level 10 for this run. You can see his mods are a little bit different. I focused again on speed. So my Jawa engineer is actually 224 speed. But what I wanted to focus on for him was potency. Remember that 88 gets extra bonuses whenever there's a negative status effect on an enemy. And Jawa Engineer's thermal detonators do a fair bit of damage if you can start collecting them. And with all the different opportunities to get ally assists with this group, you definitely want to make sure that you look at his potency. They do get extra potency, Jawas, as a result of being Jawas in the AAT. So you may not necessarily need 80%, 90%, but I think 70% worked out well for my Jawa engineer and hitting those thermal detonators. So you'll see that he has a 30 speed arrow, he has 9, 7, 14, 4, and 13. So he's loaded up on speed. I had to split some between Nebit also, but I also wanted to make sure I got potency on Jawa Engineer. So when you're looking at mods for Jawa Engineer, remember the key is still going to be speed. You want Jawa Engineer as fast as possible, but also consider getting potency mods. If you're looking for specific mods and there's any kind of tie break, try to get those potency mods on him. Now, the abilities that are really going to be key for Jawa Engineer. Obviously, you have his thermal detonator, which you want to make sure that you are applying. His patch up ability is going to be one that you're more going to be using for his healing aspects. So when you use patch up, you can heal all of your allies for 30% of their max health, and then if you go to Nebit and you use his taunt, you can reduce the cooldown and the patch up comes back earlier, which means that you'll be able to revive a droid when you really need him to. So make sure that you don't think about this necessarily in the same terms as Arena. In patch up in Arena, you definitely want to save for whenever a droid dies. Arena has a much faster pace than a PvE raid like AAT. So make sure that you use this for its healing abilities, not just the res, but also the healing abilities. And this will also help Nebit, because remember, Nebit is going to be trying to taunt, take some damage. He's going to need some support if you're, especially like me, and he's only gear level 9. He'll take a good bit of damage. He won't last as long as you really need him to, and so that can cause some problems if you're not careful. But most importantly is this recalibrate. So all allies gain critical chance up for 2 turns, which is only 2 turns. So while this is a nice benefit, you may not necessarily want to rely on this as your crit chance when you're attacking, because remember that droids are gaining turn meter all the time, and so they might be able to attack the AAT about 4 or 5 times, and only 2 of those times is really going to be getting any critical chance bonus. So don't rely too heavily on the crit chance up, but it is a nice ability to have. And Jawas and Droid also gain 45% turn meter. That's going to be critical because you can change the order of the attacks if you do it properly. Okay, so that's going to be my squad. So let me go ahead and, so I recorded my attack earlier from my AAT attack. Whoops, I accidentally clicked the wrong thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and start showing my video of my attack. It's going to start off with some of the restarts that I did, and I'll kind of explain and pause as we go through this. But remember, there's a specific way that you kind of want to go through this. I've seen some people, so to go to the AAT again really quick before I start, when you topple the tank, there's 3 possible buffs that you can get. So the first one, Morale 1, is one that all of the characters get. As soon as you topple, it's pretty much the guaranteed one that you get as a bonus, and that one is that all of your attacking units gain 100% defense penetration. So that one is pretty straightforward. It'll come with whatever you do. Now, the next one is Morale 2. Now, I have found when I get the Morale 2 bonus that my damage does go up a little bit, so I try to get the Morale 2. Now, some people only go with Morale 1, just because they think it goes back a little bit faster. So you may want to play around with it and see what works better for your strategy. For me, getting Morale 2 definitely helped. And Morale 2 increases the speed of all of your attacking units by 25%, And way you get it is if all 3 of the AAT weapon systems, meaning the 2 side cannons and the 1 main cannon on top, were disabled within 1 turn of the main unit. So you'll see how I'm trying to get that in my attacks. And the other one is Morale 3. Now this is one that I may play around with a little bit more. You have to be careful if you're trying to get Morale 3. Because the way Morale 3 works is that your characters will gain 50% critical damage, which is a great buff, especially with this squad. But the way that you get the Morale 3 bonus is if any of your characters suffered a direct hit from the main cannon, which is the one that's on top, and survived until the AAT was toppled. Now, the main cannon does unmitigatable damage, and if you do not have a buff, then you get massive damage, which basically kills off the character. So with the squad, the ability that you'll need to make sure that you prepare with is your recalibrate. Because without recalibrate, not all of your characters will be able to get a buff that you can plan. And recalibrate adds 2 turns of crit chance. So it requires a great deal of timing in order to do it that way. It may be worthwhile. It's something that I need to experiment with, but with my current method, I've been able to get 3%, 4%, so I really haven't been trying to push that too much. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit difficult, I think, to kind of plan your Morale 3 bonus. You'll probably need to make sure that your characters have a lot of hit points and maybe the best mods, so they don't take too much damage from all the other cannons. But that is another potential way that you can attack this. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the video, and we can go through this. Okay. So this is going to be my first attack. I know that this is one that I retreated from. Make sure that you always note what your starting percentage is. So for this one, it was 62.15. Okay, so you'll see there that I started off with the recalibrate by Jawa Engineer. The reason for that is if you looked at the turn meter of all of the different characters, all of them were pretty much set to go after those main cannons. So I wanted to get some damage in by all of my droids before the cannons started to fire. And particularly because they gain 50% turn meter so often, especially IG-88, because he has an AoE that on 4 targets, HK-47 has an AoE that'll go on 4 targets. They're pretty much guaranteed an immediate turn after they do their AoE. So that's why I wanted to start off with recalibrate. Get my droids and my Jawa, get them going early. Nebit is already kind of ready to go, and my droids are now ready to go. I start off by focusing on the side cannons, and you can change this around. I've seen some people also focus on the main tank at the beginning until the side cannons go down. I like to focus on the side cannons first and try to get them low so I can destroy all 3 of the things at the same time to get the Morale 2 bonus. Okay, so I start off by attacking the side cannon. You'll see the AoE by IG-88 here. Now I do the AoE by HK-47. 47 and 88 both have full turn meter. But just based on the random numbers, you see IG-86 going ahead. He got double crit on that one because he got crit on his special. He called Nebit. Nebit then called IG-86 for his assist. And so IG-86 basically got 100% turn meter again. So if you wanted to play around with RNG at this point in order to try and get all 3 of the cannons down at the same time, you could. It may require multiple runs. Because you do need like a specific order in order to keep on pulling this turn meter. So I usually let them attack 1 round first, but if you really wanted to play around with RNG and try to get the best run you could, then you would probably want to play around with that aspect. Now, you'll see here that the left cannon was destroyed. Now for this first attack, I just wanted to show you, I'm critting on all of these. I do a lot of crits, I'm doing a lot of damage. I'm focusing on these. The goal, again, for Morale 2 is to try and get the main cannon and the 2 side killed off at the same time. But here goes the main tank. Main tank goes, which means no Morale 2 bonus for me unless I wait for that left cannon to come up again and then destroy it. So I restart my attack here. Okay? So, again, make sure you're focusing on the turn meters and how these attacks are going. Okay? The strategy in order to get the morale 2 bonus is to reduce the left and the right while you can, and the reason for that is their turn meter gain is a little bit faster, their speed is a little bit faster. So once the main tank goes, you can then kill off the side cannons, and they're not going to be able to attack you while you work on the main cannon. Now for that one, it ended up being an evaded attack, and I've accidentally focused on the main tank, not on the side cannon. So I just restarted there. Okay? Don't settle for anything short of a decent run if you're having trouble reaching your goals. Your guild will need you to reach 2%, so make sure you focus on trying to get that. Okay? So start off by recalibrate, do my AoE, HK47 gets full turn meter, IG88 attacked, full turn meter, attacked again, got his 50%. Now, you see that I used the ambush attack on the other cannon. That's because I don't want the left cannon dead. I need to wait for the main tank to go before I take out the side cannons, otherwise I won't get morale 2. So that's why I use his special ability on the side cannon, and then next turn I can use his taunt and then reduce the cooldown on it by 1, and then it should be up and ready for whenever I topple the AAT. Okay, so my IG86, because I know he's going to crit and do a lot of damage, instead of focusing on the side cannon, I lowered the top one. Okay, so my 88 got dodged there. It wasn't very happy. I wasn't a big fan of that, but I continued to kind of roll along, see if I could still get all the damage that I needed. Okay, still plugging along here. Now the main tank is gone, so now I'm free to start to destroy all of the different guns. Okay, and that's one of them that I got really annoyed with, where IG86 got resisted, and then IG88 got dodged. So remember that evasion, dodge, and deflect, whatever happens with that, if you lose damage, don't be afraid to restart. Okay, you want your damage dealers, especially your droids, to be hitting. If your Jawas end up getting dodged, it may not be as big a deal, because they don't deal as much damage, but if your droids, especially 88 or 86, get dodged, you want to reconsider. Okay, so again, you'll see me kind of spreading around the damage between the left and the right. AoE on 88 whenever it's up, because he does a lot of damage. AoE on HK47. Okay, rolling along here. Right cannon is pretty much, or the left cannon I should say, right towards you, is in the red. The one on the left, which is the right cannon, is actually in the yellow. Now, with my Jawa engineer, you saw that I focused on the main tank on that attack. The reason for that is I wanted a thermal detonator on the tank. I'm fairly confident, having done this a few times, that I can break all of the other tanks during that time period. So instead of attacking the main tank and putting a thermal detonator and wasting that detonator, since I need to destroy all 3 of the cannons, I decided to put the thermal detonator on the main tank. Okay, so always make sure that you're aware of the situation and what's going on. Okay, now that the main tank is gone, I focus on the top. I could have focused on the side cannons. It would have probably been a better choice. And so you'll see that I restart, because it would have been a better choice to go on the side cannons, destroy those, make sure they don't deal me extra damage, and then focus on the main cannon, because I'll have bought myself a lot of time. Okay, so if you make a mistake, don't be afraid to restart. Okay, so going ahead and starting again with recalibrate, getting that turn meter up for everybody. Okay, so now you see the ambush on the other one, bringing both of them down. Get the AoE off 88, AoE on HK47. Now, another thing that can help with regards to your RNG run is HK47 has the chance of also inflicting speed down. Now, speed down, if you can get it on the main tank when he's toppled, will help your damage. Now, in this particular run, I didn't get it. You can also try it when the tank is toppled, but the speed down one is a really nice one to try and get. because it does reduce the speed that the AAT is gaining turn meter, which makes you last in your topple phase a little bit longer. Okay, so again, Jawa Engineer putting a detonator on the main tank. So the reason I didn't attack the side cannon at all was because I figured the AoE for HK-47 would have taken it out. Okay, now I underestimated the speed of the different things. So you saw the main tank ended up going before the main cannon. Damage was a little bit slow there, so you restart. Okay, so still 62.15%. Starting off with Jawa Engineer, make sure you watch the turn meters. Use the recalibrate to get those turn meters full, so then they'll go before the side cannons. And make sure that you're targeting something appropriate, because using recalibrate will trigger an ally to attack. Okay, spreading around the damage a little bit between the left and the right. Did the AoE. It didn't kill the left one, which is perfect. Brought it down quite a bit. Didn't kill it. So now I can go ahead and start pumping out some damage. Okay. So putting the thermal detonator on the main tank again. Main tank is attacked. And you'll see that it did 2 attacks there. So if you're worried about your damage, that may be a time to restart and just wait for the main tank to attack only 1. That particular time it attacked Nebit and 86, but I went ahead and continued with this attack. Okay. Now taking out the top cannon, using the AoE because I have a high crit chance and there's no reason to turn away any extra damage on the main tank while taking out the top. And now here I go with all my damage. Okay, so this is when you can use your AoE even though there's only one target in order to get that slow down. Now, hopefully it worked, but it didn't work in this particular case. So if you get the attacking style down, then you can consider restarting at this point and trying to get a speed down on the tank, either before or after. That could be one of the RNG things to look at if you're trying to get a really good run in. But this run right now is doing pretty well, so I'm not too worried. At this point, you could use Recalibrate. Now, I'm going to stop here for a second. You could use Recalibrate, get all of your droids extra damage, and then go ahead and push more damage onto the AAT. But the buffs right now, if I had Morale 3, I would probably do that, because I get the increased damage by 50%. Right now, I have the 100% armor penetration, which is nice, and the speed. But the speed is kind of irrelevant at this point. So instead, I'm just going to attack, and I'm going to save the recalibrate for when the tank comes out of topple in order to speed up my killing of the other 3 cannons in order to get my second topple. Now, it's up to you how you want to do it. I like to save the recalibrate until I'm out of the topple and trying to break down those other 3 cannons. If you want to, you can go ahead and destroy it now. You'll see that I'm already at about 1.5% roughly damage. And so if I do the boost and get all of my droids to go again, chances are I'm going to be able to push 2% right now. But instead, I'm going to go ahead and save my recalibrate and just try to get another detonator. The other thing also is to make sure you look at the health. So I could have used the ability to heal up my droids a little bit also, but all of their health was still there. They all had a little bit of protection. You can't really do much with the protection, so I'm just kind of stuck there. Okay, so now the AAT goes. Attacks. So my Nebit is getting a little bit low now. I'm still going to taunt because I want to reduce all of the cooldowns that my characters have. Okay. Start focusing again. Same strategy. Now I'm focusing again on the left. Use my AoE. Brought down the left, so I'm bringing down the right now. And I'm doing it from my perspective, not the actual name. That's the left cannon that we're attacking here. You'll see that I use the recalibrate with my Jawa engineer in order to get my Jawas going. I have the all attack, so I'm attacking the main cannon to see how low I can get it. Jawa engineer got called twice, which is a little sad. Would have been better if 88 or 86 got called, but you can still kind of push here. Now, my Nebit is actually getting low on health. I wanted to continue getting damage up on the tank because I'm getting fairly close to being able to break all of them before the tank goes again. Okay, so at this point, you'll see that all of them, and I'm pausing it here, all of the different cannons are relatively low. If I had my AoE ability on 88, I could go ahead and use that and maybe break this. So again, RNG with a little bit of how the turn meter works will always come into play here. But in the current situation, I don't have the AoE. I have the three cannons ready to break, but the AAT is going to go next. So, because of that, there's no reason to attack a side cannon and potentially risk the morale 2 bonus. So I just focus on the main tank, do an extra 16k damage. Okay, so my 86 survived, which is great. And so I can use my heal ability when it comes up on Jawa Engineer. In the meantime, just continue to work on breaking down the tank. 2 down, 3 down, now the tank is going to topple. Okay, so I can heal up Nebit and 86. Use my AoE to try and get a slow. Again, I did not get the slow, so this could have been a reason for me to restart and try to get better RNG. I just continued this though because I was kind of crunched on time a little bit, and I wanted to make sure I recorded the videos to make the tutorial for this. Okay, so continuing just to kind of chug along here. Droids are just gaining 50% turn meter, 50% turn meter. And you'll see now that I have passed the 2%, getting close to 3% now. Okay, I'm at the same dilemma again with regards to recalibrate, or calibrate up and doing a basic attack. And because the AAT was almost full, I just went ahead and did a basic attack, launched another thermal detonator on him. Okay, so the side cannons are going now. Okay, you saw that the thermal detonators did about 8,000 each, so about 24,000 damage. Now he has his dots on. And so the dots end up being kind of the time when you realize, okay, it's coming to an end here. So at this point, I'm not even worrying about the other cannons. I'm going straight after the main tank. Okay, I managed to res IG-86. Really did no good, but it drew at least some of the fire from one of the cannons. Okay, and now it's just kind of burning down as much as I can. The other benefit to this also is if you guys do more than one attack in the AAT, you can either go trying to destroy all of the cannons for your second attack, or if you look at the ending on here, let me see if I can scroll back a little bit here. Okay, so let me replay here and then I'll pause it as my characters die. But take a look at the turn meter on the upper cannon. So, and kill 8K47. Okay, so take a look at the turn meter. More likely than not, whenever you send in your next squad, the first thing to go will be the main cannon, and the main cannon has an AoE that, well, not an AoE necessarily, but it deals unmitigatable damage, and then if your character doesn't have a buff, it's going to die. So, more likely than not, you're going to send in something, and it's going to just die. So instead of sending in a full squad, you can now send in a sacrifice character that'll just draw the main cannon, and then the main cannon will have no turn meter, and your AAT will be relatively low on turn meter like it is now, and you're almost back to a starting position where the side cannons will be going first. Okay, so you also want to think about if you have another attack and what you plan on doing with it. Okay, so ultimately you see that I got close to 700,000. I got about, I think, 3.5%. The majority of the damage was definitely IG-88, so make sure that you gear him up. And things that could have definitely helped would have been if I had Nebit a little bit higher gear, so he would be able to take more shots. I didn't have good RNG with regards to the dispelling of the taunt on Nebit. I didn't have good RNG with regards to some of the crits. And so make sure that you're always kind of paying attention to that. Don't settle for your first run. Okay, there's certain things you always want to make sure you try and prioritize. So if you go back to the RNG slide that I have, those are the main ones you want to check. Then as you get better and better with those attacks, then you can focus on some of the smaller things. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial. So this was the tutorial for a Phase 2 attack with your 3 Droid 2 Jawa team, which is an HK lead, IG-86, IG-88, Chief Nebit, and Jawa engineer. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments of this video. Also, if you have any suggestions on the way you do your attacks, definitely post them in there. I'm willing to try out new things. This one's been working for me so far, so I didn't necessarily want to go away from it. But in the meantime, let me know what you guys are doing. If gear, what you would do for your mods, if you're doing it any differently. And otherwise, I'll see you next time.